On December 7, 1978, the MS Munich, a German container transport ship, departed the port of Bremerhaven bound for Savannah, Georgia. This was its 62nd voyage across the North Atlantic and was considered routine by the crew on board. However, tragically, the ship never arrived at its destination, nor was it ever seen again. Something huge, deadly, and believed to occur only once every 10,000 years claimed this ship, and it's still out there to this day. The MS Munich was an enormous ship, measuring 857 feet long, carrying 83 shipping containers, also known as lighters, and 28 experienced crew members. The journey from Germany to America covered a distance of just under 5,000 nautical miles at a top speed of 18 knots, taking approximately 11 days at sea. Despite the violent storm that had been raging over the ocean since November, the Munich's exceptional flotation capabilities allowed it to continue with its voyage. Suddenly, at 3 a.m. on December 12, the ship sent out a distress call. However, only fragments of the call were received by surrounding vessels in Morse code, and before they could respond, the Munich went silent. Immediately, rescue efforts began, and automated messages and calls from the ship were occasionally received, giving hope that the crew might still be alive. Despite high winds and difficult conditions, the search continued with over 100 ships and 16 aircraft scouring the area around the ship's last known coordinates day and night. Finally, on December 14th, they found a life raft close to where the Munich had sent its original distress call. Sadly, the raft was empty, leaving everyone to assume the worst. Horrifyingly, the Munich's life rafts, which had been bolted to the ship 66 feet above the water, didn't appear to have been lowered by the crew. They had been ripped from the ship's stern by some terrifying force, and flung into the ocean. According to the records of the time, there was no wave in history big or powerful enough to have done this, not to a ship as big and resilient as the Munich. It was almost like some sort of sea monster had risen up and torn it off. As the days rolled on, more damaged life rafts, and 3 lighters belonging to the Munich, were discovered in the water, all of them empty. On December 20th, after the last hope was extinguished, the search was called off. The MS Munich and all 28 of its crew were considered lost to the waves, or to whatever was lurking within them. Explorers and oceanographers were puzzled and frightened that this could have happened, but old sailors and experienced mariners knew all too well what it was. For centuries, they had traded stories and passed rumors of events at sea that defied science and belief, and while very few truly believed them, ancient tales of towering waves more than 100 feet tall, that would rise out of the ocean and swallow ships whole, suddenly seemed to be more truth than tale. Still, scientists remained skeptical. The idea of supersized waves some 100 feet tall rolling rogue around the ocean sounded insane, and without any data, they dismissed it as a load of bunk. But with the turn of the 20th century came the arrival of steel double-hulled ships replacing their timber predecessors. With greater structural integrity, ships that would have otherwise sunk started returning from sea damaged beyond belief. Astronomers described nightmarish visions of gigantic freak waves, randomly appearing in the ocean, and smashing into them with such force that huge chunks of them were easily ripped away. Yet scientists have denied the existence of such deadly waves. But why were they so adamant that waves could only reach a certain height in the first place? Well, it's because water doesn't actually travel in waves, rather, energy travels in waves. You might think I'm tricking you here, as we've all definitely seen waves of water crashing into the shore, but have you ever seen a boat, or a buoy floating in the ocean? They bob up and down in a rise and fall pattern. This isn't the ocean moving on its own, rather, it's waves of energy moving through the water that are displacing it on the surface. Energy is transferred to the ocean through friction, caused by the wind blowing along the surface, as well as the gravitational pull of the sun and moon upon the earth. This energy travels through the water as a wave, until it's eventually broken up by an obstacle or crashes into the shore. Now, to be more specific, scientists originally thought these waves of energy were linear waves. Any musician watching might recognize these as harmonic waves, where the height of the crest is equal to the depth of its trough. The size of these waves can be predictably calculated with some simple math. So scientists thought, based on their calculations, that oceanic waves could only reach a maximum height of 30 feet tall. Any wave larger than that was thought to be impossible, until an event on New Year's Day in 1995, which changed everything. While the rest of the world was nursing hangovers that morning, the crew of the Draupner oil installation were trying to stay steady on their feet in the rough and turbulent waters of the Norwegian North Sea, a relatively shallow stretch of water that only runs 328 feet deep. Meanwhile, the Pacific Ocean reaches over 6.5 miles deep. Due to the North Sea's shallow depth, it is full of churning, violent waters. This turbulent nature of the North Sea is why structures such as oil platforms have to be anchored to the ground to prevent them from being washed away. These installations harvest the rich supply of crude oil and natural gas located there beneath the Earth's crust. To survive this hellish stretch of water, the Draupner platform was equipped with a downward-pointing laser to keep track of the surrounding sea state. Little did the crew know that this device would soon make a startling discovery because, on this day, the platform laser measured a mammoth 85-foot wave rising out of the ocean. Finally, irrefutable proof of a rogue wave had been captured. Not only did it dwarf all scientific estimates of the maximum height of a wave, but it was also more than twice the size of the other waves surrounding the platform, which only reached 38 feet. This fit the textbook definition of a rogue wave, defined as a wave that is at least twice the height as the surrounding waves in that stretch of sea. This supersized freak wave was named the Draupner wave, and remains the tallest measured rogue wave of all time. It was finally established without a doubt that rogue waves were real. Ah, good. Like the ocean wasn't terrifying enough already. Now, with maritime myth proven to be fact, researchers went back through reports of ships that had vanished under inexplicable circumstances, like the MS Munich. They have since determined that rogue waves have likely claimed a catastrophic 22 supertankers, damaged countless others, and ended more than 500 lives in the second half of the 20th century alone. With that said, the number of lives claimed by rogue waves over the last several centuries is unknown, but it is believed to total somewhere in the thousands. But even though the existence of rogue waves had been proven, scientists still believed they were rare. Due to the sheer size and amount of energy needed to create one, some oceanographers and mechanical engineers estimated that rogue waves would occur once every 10,000 years. However, it turns out that this timeline was unbelievably optimistic. In fact, a scientific research group dedicated to studying rogue waves, known as Max Wave, studied 30,000 worldwide satellite photos taken by the European Space Agency in 2001. They found that in just one 3-week period, over 10 rogue waves swelled up in the ocean, and those were just the ones they could spot. It's really scary. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Share your opinions in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe to new videos. See you soon.